Greetings, monster lovers. I have to preface this unboxing specifically on this board game. Why you've been seeing more unboxings of board games than usual is because since the pandemic time, about when all these came out on Kickstarter, that's when they got backed. And then about 1, 2, 3 years later, they would start arriving at my place. Now I unboxed some, but then I left some not opened until I moved out because I just didn't want damage to occur to the boxes as we would go through the move. And I knew we were going to move at some point soon. And the way I was doing the unboxings was I had the games listed by what their ratings are on Board Game Geek, the website. This is the highest rated one. This is my most anticipated one. I try to avoid watching unboxing videos and even playthroughs and tutorials and stuff like that because I don't want to spoil. I want to absorb that whole unboxing experience, because if you've ever unboxed board games like this, you should know that there is nothing like unboxing epic board games, or just awesome board games in general. Enough jibba jabba, let's get started. As always with these unboxings, we'll be focusing on the monstrous stuff. We'll be taking a nice close shot at the miniatures. It's actually more white than I expected, which is great, because this is to complement another game that inspired actually this game, which has a completely black box. Not much to see on the back. You can somewhat see the glossy triangle there, and title right here. Considering the pricing, I'm actually quite surprised how similar the quality of the box is. Even these tokens look compared to that other black game I mentioned. In case you do not know what kind of game this is a boss battler type of game with a bit of world exploration as well. This is sort of the arena, the grounds where you will battle on. Quite a big board here. Cycle 3. So here's cycle 1 where we begin. My goodness, look at that thickness. Those are 2 books right there. And I assume cycle 2 in there with it. Look at that amount of plastic. Everything pre-built for the most part. This is really exciting. I didn't expect the miniatures to take up the majority of the box, and to be so nicely organized. That is awesome. I was worried that I would have to worry about just another game where I would have to figure out how to pack everything back in the box. I don't think I'll have to worry about that with this one, even though this is definitely one of my biggest games. So we'll take a closer look at all these minis right after we see what's beneath all of them here. Okay, there's all the stuff. I am actually really pleased. The first impressions and quick glimpse of those minis, I definitely have positive feels about that. Really hope I'll enjoy this game, but I'll totally be honest with myself. I do not waste time with stuff I don't really enjoy, but we'll see. I've been surprised before. Learn to play right there. So there's a little booklet that we play along with. This is actually one of the most complex games that I do own, but I've heard that about other games that they're very complex, such as Cloud Spire, for instance. That one wasn't that bad. So here's the rulebook and basically the tutorial. How thick is that rulebook? Let's see how many pages. 80 pages. All right. Whew, this is like Frosthaven, except Frosthaven I already knew Gloomhaven, so it was more like 30 pages to learn. These are the characters you play. If you're interested, if you have no idea what board game this is, if you're one of my more regular viewers, then stay tuned. I don't know enough, so I'm not going to speak on it, but you're going to be battling gods. It's kind of Greek themed, and yeah, there's a lot of land exploration, stuff like that. So that's that. There's not much for monstrous stuff to look at as we unbox, unless we break through all these card decks and all that. But it's all going to be in the plastic, which is what we love the most. So let's take a look at these delicious minis. And here we are. We're going to be starting with the Titans first. You are humans in this game, but you are controlling Titans through the means of technology and such. And you use the Titans to battle against larger foes, which are the primordials. So that's where this game stands. This is one of the Titans that you start with. The game says that they're 30 feet tall, so you can see the columns below and all that. Maybe a little pet peeve that I have that often games or videos miss. I'm just being nitpicky. If you look at the steps here, this would more measure out to me like 40 feet, which isn't too big of a difference. I think they did fairly good job just looking at the bases and seeing there. But then with some of them, they do look around 30 feet tall, so they do make sense. But anyway, nonetheless, these guys are around 30 feet tall. The helmets are there to control those Titans so that when you connect with them from your source, you connect and basically enslaving them. One thing I love with these minis, again, they're Titans, so you have all these little features and you're going to be seeing more of that. There's a little bit of a goat design at the end of the stave there. And this is Solon. And next up we have Herodotus. He has a part of a ship as a shield, again showing the scale there. If there's one word to describe this game, Aeon Trespass Odyssey, is everything about it is epic. The monsters, the gameplay, the rules. And next up after Herodotus, we have Ulyssia, Titan. So we're going to go through all the Titans of all the cycles, and then we're going to move on to the Primordials, the big beasties that you battle. Overall, the miniatures are great. People compare, because it's a big boss battler, to, and it was inspired by Kingdom Death Monster. Kingdom Death definitely has a higher quality plastic, hence the price tag, and then you have to glue it all together. So be it what it may, the quality of the plastic here is good. It's better than some board games, but again, it's not premium up there. There is some morphing here, which of course can be fixed by heating up the spear. Next up is the second female Titan that you get to play, and that is Philoctera. She's got a little crossbow type of weapon there, arrows on the back, again the mask, cool details on the bottom to show her scale. Let's take a look at the underskirt for the detail there. Looks decent. It's a small area. Now this Titan's pretty awesome. This is Earthshaker, so this guy is not available at the start. You get progressively cooler and stronger and better armored and armed Titans as you play. I'm really liking what's going on with the whole pose and everything, and the whole action along with the ground, going with the whole balance of things. You can see that there's a lot of separate pieces that have been glued in the factory, such as the sword on the back and things like that, other arms, even the head is a separate piece. So very awesome. I'm always impressed with these board games if they get a deal to do these multi-pieced miniatures and get that delivered, so you don't have to do anything. You can just prime them now and paint them up, or not, but nonetheless you can play with them. A little bit more warpage here. This is Maze Runner Titan. Again, notice how much more armored she is. She's got the cool shield there with the bull head, nice big juicy spear, support on her legs, support and armor. It's an interesting world because it's Greek mythology mixed in with different technologies and magic and things like that, so it's quite fascinating of a concept, the whole game. And this Titan is known as Logic Breaker. Again, great pose going there. It's got the maze shield. For those of you that are more in the know of this game and the hobby, then I will be doing a video in the future comparing Kingdom Death Monster and Aeon Trespass Odyssey. I just need to get some more gaming in. I mean, there's going to be a lot of other things along the way. I'm going to be doing a dedicated video to KDM as well, and my love-hate relationship sort of with it. Then there's going to be review videos, but I'm also going to do one comparing the two games. So after Logic Breaker there, we have Game Changer. Don't you just love the name of these Titans? So yes, this is another Titan that you get to play and control, I believe. There might be a detail that I don't know yet. But do you see what I mean with the scaling? This guy's 30 feet tall. Is that making sense to you? I'm feeling closer to 40, maybe even 50 with that ship down there. Not a big deal, but that's just something I always keep an eye on. Because I've done videos like comparing dragon sizes, and I've had to do quite a bit of research to try to get that right. And I noticed that a lot of videos and people out there, when they make content related to scaling something, they don't put enough attention into that and get things wrong. This model is just amazing. This is just an awesome piece to paint up and showcase somewhere. The whole base is a ship, and it's such a small scale, small size. I mean, here it is next to my gnarly finger, so that's an awesome mini, and that staff being detailed as it is with all this going on is awesome. On top of that, then the hair doesn't touch here, which is great. Let's take a look at that base a little bit. The portrait, the cape is nice and realistic, still keeping a thinness to it. Quite impressive. Look at that other arm, look at the right arm, and we got an actual thumb there too. And just these little details off to the side, these little spikes off to the side of the helmet. Very nice. Comment right now below and let me know if you've ever seen playable characters in miniatures like this before. The Titan splitting a ship, being a playable character, that's just awesome. So this is Zeus God form. This is, I believe, a thing that you can do with any of your Titans is go through a process of putting it into this god form, this powerful god form. I simply love this mini because of the lightning. This must have been such a headache to engineer and tool for the factory to get these lightning bits. You can see these ones are flat there. This one would going off to the side, that'd be a headache. Like even the hair right there, it's disconnected, the curls of it. I mean, that's crazy right there. That's got to be a separate piece of plastic. Yes, I believe it is. The glue job is excellent. It's hard to see the seams and the separations there. And speaking of that, the mold lines aren't too bad either. The worst probably area for mold lines is maybe on the bases, things like that. And of course, he's got his helmet on there. Kind of reminiscent of a squid head or something like that. Now, before we get to the primordials, I want to take a break from the Titans and show you this and another miniature. Now, this is not a Titan. This is not a primordial. This is actually the first player token. I told you this is an epic game, right? You do have a small actual token that you can use to just know who the first player is. So you just pass it around, right? Or keep it there. But also as sort of a thank you or an extra piece, they added this as just a cool collector sculpt that you can paint up, put somewhere, but it also serves as a first player token. Just listen to that. That's some serious abbage right there. Very clean, not too much going on, so you can really explore your painting style and process and ideas. And here we return to what may seem like a small mini, but this is actually one of the most important ones, as this is the Argo. This is your ship. Comparing with the Titan, it's not that big, but this isn't to scale. This ship is about the size of today's largest cruise ships. You can see the buildings upon there, the columns in the front there, below. It's just a gigantic, enormous city ship. And this is where you reside. This is where you store the Titans. If you look at some of the artwork in the books, you can see big ships, but compared to this, they're nothing. I love this concept because sometimes in games, you don't know where your party kind of lives or resides. Are they camps? Sometimes they're not clear. Sometimes it's not that creative or interesting, or it doesn't make sense because of all the resources you have to carry and things like that. But here, everything with this makes sense because you collect resources, you build stuff, you build gear for your Titans to make them stronger. And of course, all that stuff is with you as you're traveling. How would that work? Well, it works when you live on a ship and you've got a big crew upon it and people living. You can see all the windows there. So all the Titans that I showcased thus far are from cycle 1. So in the full core game, you get 3 cycles, which are like 3 something like 70-page, 80-page books. You play through many days in the game itself, and outside of the game, in reality, it'll take you many days as well, probably, to play it as well. So you have 3 such cycles. All the Titans I showed you so far are from cycle 1. Next, I'll be showing you the Titans that you can play through cycle 2 and 3. Of course, they're going to be more advanced, bigger, muscular, beefier, more powerful, more armor, more weapons, more abilities, all that good stuff. Look at that craziness as he smashes into the ground. Awesome. I will say his foot's a little small there, but look at them back muscles. They do make up for that. And even the helmet changed in design too, so nice details. Them shoulders. That's some serious lat day right there. Lat day every day of the week. Warkeeper Titan. Another of the coolest miniatures here in just Titans. This is the Abyss Watcher. If the camera wasn't in focus in the last miniature or two, I sincerely apologize for that. Look at that pose. Look at his helmet. Again, different sort of helmet going on there. Columns on the ground. This guy looks like he's 30 feet. I could definitely believe that. Look at the size of those columns in that walkway. Let's say this is 7 feet, 8 feet, 10 feet would be about here. 10, 20, 30, actually 5 feet would be maybe half of that. So 10, 20, 30. I could definitely believe this guy to be 30 feet. But what a cool character. I would love to like take this guy and just bring him into D&D and freak everybody out. This guy's awesome. After the Abyss Watcher, we have the Truth Bearer carrying this huge carved boulder. Again, it's a nice separate piece, very clean sculpt there. Everything's looking good. Chain's awesome. It's not touching the leg. It is a separate piece there. Nice and thick enough for easy painting up, dry brushing, all that action. Spine action going down the back there. That's pretty awesome. Very cool miniature. This is one of those great showcase minis you can put out there. And it doesn't take up much space, but it's got some epicness to it, which will definitely grab attention. Next up, after Truth Bearer, we got the Ascender Titan. Powerful warhammer he has there. He's got a spear on his back as well. Cool helm with a little bit of an eye hole. strange looking feet. So this is a whole other, it looks like a mutation or something. I have no idea, and this has me intrigued now knowing that this is an actual Titan. I want to see what this character can do. Next up, we have the Returner Titan. Nice texturing there. That bow's looking sharp, especially that arrow. Armor's looking nice and clean. Got some nice details there on the helmet and the face. I'm wondering where the story goes with these Titans in Cycle 2, especially with Cycle 3. Now we're looking at the longest spear of the box, and this is Dawn Burner Titan. It's got the one wing. So not only do we have nice detailed bases, but they just add to the wholeness of everything here. Interesting helmet and what's going on there with the hair in the back. Pretty crazy spear he's got there. Next up we have, no joke, the Fire Starter. That's actually a great design idea because there's not enough space to really show much on the base here. You've got added things. I don't know if those are trees on the top or possibly shelter or building parts, but you have these temples and things up here with the columns, so it all showcases the height very nicely. A lot of nice little detail work here in the back. Looks like a fun mini to paint, and he's basically holding like some sort of gun that's shooting or firing off fire. There's some kind of liquid here. The mix of the lore and the styles in this game is pretty interesting with the fantasy, the sci-fi, the Greek mythology and all that, how it's mixed together with this sort of steampunkiness. I think this is still a Titan that's playable. That's pretty nuts. After Fire Starter, we go a little bit more petite for a nice contrast with the Sky Seer. Really liking the details on the wings there, that kind of fleshiness of them, the wrinkliness. I love how they went and took the risk of keeping the tail as thin as it is. That's really awesome, and it looks great. It came out perfect. Nothing broke in the box, so that's great. Everything was packaged well. The hair, even the intricacy of this hair. She has some of the most thinnest like strands of hair that I've seen on any of these minis, but she's looking great. What an awesome mini. Again, her pant design is pretty awesome there, and of course what's going on in the base and how it's disconnecting. Very cool, very epic, very Titan. Now we start with the primordial, the almost like fallen gods. It's sort of to that level. This is actually the first one you fight. This is the Hecaton, and I love this as a first boss monster that you battle. Maybe that's one of the things that got me the most intrigued with the lore right now, is how you get to actually play Titans that have wings and things like that. What is going on there? Is it just a different species of Titan that we hunt down, or are we adding mutations and changing our Titans with some weird technologies? But nonetheless, we got this armed guy. He's very armed. Even if he would be third or up there, I would still totally appreciate this monster in miniature. I love anything like this that kind of takes parts and overdoes it, and even the eyes being made out of hands and fingers. And then there's a bunch of cows hanging down. I believe later in the game he like tosses the cows or something too. So there's a bunch of craziness there, and then the armored front arms with huge gigantic muscles and all that. And then on the bottom, again, with the awesome base work that they've done, got a tree down there, you got columns, so everything's working together to show you the monstrosity that this is. No issues with the plastic. The quality looks great. It has a little bit of a matte touch, like you'll notice the arms are a little bit matte, not too shiny. I do like that, and paint's definitely gonna stick better to that. And our second primordial up after the Hecaton, Labyrinthaurus. Confusing one, I'd say. It has the bull form and the horns and the head here, but then there's like this energy, or I'm not sure what this is exactly, just flowing out, these tentacles coming out from its behind, from its front, twisting the sort of armored mechanical head that it has there. A lot of weird stuff going on, some columns for scale, so it's just a crazy monstrosity. I think this one, as a miniature of itself, it's sort of ambiguous. I think once we get into gameplay and put this down and even paint it up, this might actually be quite a fun piece in the game. All right, and our first of the really big boys. This is the Alpha Temenos. This is just a big chunk of plastic, solid, heavy. This is one of the coolest big primordials that I remember seeing when I first saw this game come out. Why is that column so big? That's like a 20-foot column, right? Because the Titan's here. I guess it's just a big column. We don't need to pick on it anymore. Looking at that back here, these holes are for placing in bases. Let me complete this guy. So there you go. I just put the base on here. These bases, I'm not completely sure, but I believe they're for abilities where you are battling the Titan and you actually straddle them and jump on top of them. Hence our little Titan here. Maybe you can take control of their movement, or you just have better vulnerable areas to hit there. It's pretty awesome how this is still sculpted, and you got maze and labyrinth sculpt in there. I like the fleshiness mixed with the hard tones of the pyramids mixed all together in the tentacles, and then you got your Titan on top. Pretty crazy stuff. Again, where have you seen giant monster miniatures that are designed so that your playable characters can ride them? Next up, we have Hermesian Pursuer, the Hermesian Pursuer, and I totally forgot about this guy. I love this mini. This was one of my favorite right from the start when I opened this box. I did mention earlier that nothing broke. I was wrong. Actually, his legs broke off. There's two attachments to the base here, and that's this one, and that actually broke, which I'm totally okay with. I'd rather they go and take this risk of making this awesome monster with actual thin legs and having that break, which I can easily repair and glue as I did, than them thickening up and not following what they want in a monster. This is something I would take a risk in doing if I were to be making a game like this and miniatures like this. I love it because a lot of times you'll see concepts like this in the artwork, but then in the miniatures you won't see that. And here, what you see is what you get, and that is risky in production, in shipping, but they did it and it looks spectacular. I love it. Such a wild creature. It's got the little head here and the beak. Then you got the ship at the bottom. I love the silhouette it creates, and it's just something you're not going to see very often in games, in miniatures and such. And with that, you've got the mini Pursuer. You can see a ship down there. That's pretty awesome. I think this is designed for the voyage portion of the game, and you encounter this. That's why we have another version of him. And we're coming back to the beef here with Cyclonus. Awesome anatomy action. We got some kind of a cage here, a prisoner cage, huge balls and chains, no actual hands. And then you got more cages here. I'm hoping there's more story behind that. That's where Kingdom Death Monster kind of let me down with the lack of lore. Anyway, I'm gonna go into that more later in the future when I make that video. Strange looking legs, crystalline type things growing off the back. I think this game, since there's so much writing, there's gonna be maybe more explanation. There hasn't been on the first monster. I'm hoping there's more to explaining why he's got the cages. Maybe it gives him some sort of power, the souls or something, or the torture, who knows. But again, a lot of column action. There's a lot of versatility in the design on the bases here. It looks great. After Cyclonus there, we have the Chimera Metastasios, and as you can see, there's some more attachment points, so let's do that real quick. There we go. We got the pieces attached. There's also interchangeable ones. There's a couple different ones you can switch off, I noticed. I'm wondering what the meaning behind that's going to be, but anyhow, this is the Chimera. What an interesting take on it. There's some water faces, like you got the lion face in the water there. This is basically ocean tides and ocean waves and all this, and these creatures within the waters. Even the base here. There we go. There's our little Titan. Our Titan's as big as the giant statues there. So you got a thing forming out of the water there. You got a sculpture, a statue of a horse, and a huge column, and all this stuff going on, and just the structures, the statues above, and then your Titans standing up there and battling through all this chaos. Again, what a crazy thing to fight. Something I haven't seen in other games. And next up, we have the Nietzschean, gigantic humanoid undead thing with fire burning all throughout its skulls, coming out of the flames, even down here. All these swords penetrating the back of it, the musculature, the armor, and then the crazy flames coming out here with the skull underneath. What a crazy thing to paint up. And then down here, what do we have here? Is that a human? That'd be probably too big to be a human, right? But maybe that's a Titan of some sort right there, or maybe that is a regular regular human, but nonetheless, I love that that is there. Look at that detail. The arms are separate on that. That's a whole little miniature that you can paint up. I always want to see stuff like that. Like, you've seen me talk about big monsters like in Arena the Contest, but they never go through these details, right? And here they did. They went through the detail to show scale by putting some sort of person on the base and right between the legs too. That's just, it's a pretty crazy design. And without this here, this would just be another cool kind of fiery monster, right? But with that little detail right there, that really makes this have a lot of character and stand out. Well done, guys. And after the Nietzschean, we have the Burden, another very cool sculpt that you can just paint up and put somewhere around your house for display. I'm enjoying the different sorts of faces and then all the other human faces and body parts worked into the whole sculpt. You get these mechanical legs and then this organic giant arm coming out, skull face. You got this old man sort of face all mixed up. And this one has a mini version as well right here. It looks like it has some sort of voyage mechanics, so you can put it on the map as you explore with the sea. One big burden and a mini-me. Notice the skull's eye sockets have teeth. And this very, very tall primordial has an odd name to it. I hope I got the right name, and that is Hypertime Oracle. It's got a lot of these sort of circular gear-shaped circles all over its wings and going down the robe on its face. Got some feather works, and then the drapage action and the columns. It sort of actually has a column look. I wonder if it derived from being a statue of sorts. There's a temple behind it. Maybe that's a temple where it was worshipped or something, or where its oracleness resided from originally. Mechanical sort of top here with the helmet or head wings. I do really like how these feathers right here just stick out. That molding is very clean right there. Even around here you can see, because they bend and they're so sharp, they have a nice effect in the light, so you can clearly see those tips. Pretty awesome. And second to last, we have the Icarian Harpy, or Icarian Harpy. Not sure how to pronounce that, but one thing I noticed right away is how thin those fingers are. The distances and the separation here of all the feathers and the head and the body parts. I'm liking this model because of all the complexity and the differences in the sort of biology that it has. I wonder if that one Titan that had the single open eye hole, that the kind of monocular helmet, I wonder if you have to kill this one to achieve or get that technology or that Titan. Quite possibly. In a game that I have yet to receive, and even in Kingdom Death Monster and in other games, you'll see how your armor derives from certain monsters you kill, right? I believe in this game it's not quite like that, although I'm sure there are pieces of armor and weapons that you get that derive from the primordials that you slay. Pretty wild. So there's a lot of tentacleage, and there's tentacleage also at the face coming out instead of like a beard. So you got feathers and tentacleage. That's an interesting mix, and that's an interesting harpy. And last, but certainly far from least, we have the Sun Descendant. And before I continue with this one, you can see there's portions here that you can add in. So let's get that going. Here is the Sun Descendant in all its glory. All the pieces fit in snugly on it. There's 1, 2, 3 separate pieces, and you don't need glue or anything. And I love that because you can remove them, you can paint it up better, put everything back in the box. No issues with any of these. Great job on the molding and the engineering and tooling of these miniatures. We've already talked about this even on smaller miniatures, but the separation, there's like 3 or 4 different levels of wings there. It's just all clean and separate and looks great. What an awesome creature though. What an awesome monster. This is the definition of monstrosity. Where is the thinking point? The main brain, the headquarters of this creature? Is it going to be in this little noggin or in these ones? Or is it like an octopus where each tentacle sort of has its own smaller sort of brain organ? It's just a very cool, crazy monster with feathers, again, mixed with tentacles and skulls. What more do you need? Columns to show the scale at the bottom. I do have this piece left over. Looks like this should have been on the pyramid guy. Right, and that answers that question, right? Because if your Titan didn't attack this guy and didn't start riding on top of his back, then it just would have this silly hole back there, right? So that's where this goes. Fitting in perfectly. there you go. That's what that looks like. So then if your Titan does manage to get on its back, then you replace it with the other actual base. So that's very cool. Anyhow, let me know which one you guys like the most. There's a lot of awesome minis, a lot of creative stuff here. The playable characters themselves were quite awesome, so I'm looking forward to seeing your guys' feedback or feels on Aeon Trespass Odyssey. Till next time.